How not? Today is Thursday, September 19th, 2024. Tomorrow is September 20th. My daughter is departing for London or Durham University, just south of Newcastle in the UK, for 1 year preparation study for Durham University. So uh, we will miss her a little bit, and I hope all the best for her. And just in case, I just wondered how she or I could make open an U.S. bank account in case I get a lottery winning ticket. Just kidding. So I was curious whether we could just open a bank account as a foreigner, as a visitor. So I just selected this article randomly, and the reason I am trying to read this article is to practice English and also to be more knowledgeable about opening a bank account. As we discussed yesterday, it's impossible to open a bank account in the UK as a foreigner or as a tourist. You need to have a permanent residency, so you need to provide proof of address there. Let's find that out if that's true or not. And this article is from bankrate.com, and the title is How Non-US Citizens Can Open a Bank Account. So let's have our hopes high. Let's have a high hope, and it's a 6-minute read. It was written on July 1st, 2024. So there's a hyphen missing between 6 and minute, right? 6-minute read. The Bankrate promise. At Bankrate, we strive to help you make smarter financial decisions while we adhere to strict editorial integrity. This post may contain references to products from our partners. Here's an explanation for how we make money. Our writers and editors used an in-house natural language generation platform, or AI, to assist with portions of this article, allowing them to focus on adding information that is uniquely helpful. The article was reviewed, fact-checked, that's good expression, fact-checked, and edited by our editorial staff prior to publication. Fact-checked. For the vast majority of consumers, a bank account is one of the basic tools for financial security. But accessing something as essential as a bank account can be a challenge when you don't have a social security number. Without a bank account, non-US citizens face a range of serious difficulties in managing their finances, including figuring out how to keep their money safe and how to avoid high fees for check cashing services. Unfortunately, it is possible for non-US citizens to open a checking account or a savings account to prevent these issues. That's good, though it involves a bit more legwork and documentation than for US citizens. Checking account and savings account. Key takeaways. Non-US citizens can open bank accounts in the US, but they may need to go through extra steps, especially if they are non-residents. Some banks and credit unions accept alternative forms of identification, such as an individual taxpayer identification number, ITIN, for non-US citizens to open accounts. Opening a bank account can provide benefits such as lower fees, extra protection for your money, and opportunities to build credit. Required documents to open a U.S. bank account. To open an account, a bank or credit union needs to know it's really you. It's a part of the U.S. government's customer identification program, which sets the standards for how financial institutions should confirm their customers' identities. Verifying your identity will be different depending on the bank or credit union, but it typically involves providing the following: photo ID, eligible documents to prove your name and birth date include an unexpected passport, a permanent resident card, and a foreign driver's license. Include an unexpired passport, proof of address, a recent utility bill, formal letter with your name and address or employer paycheck can often serve as a proof of your current address. Initial deposit. Not all banks or credit unions require an initial deposit, but many do. Wells Fargo, for example, requires $25 minimum deposit to open an everyday checking account. Initial Taxpayer Identification Number, ITIN. Many bank accounts pay interest, which is taxable income. Banks require an individual taxpayer identification number, ITN, for non-residents in order to supply information to the Internal Revenue Service or IRS for tax reporting purposes. Many customers are accustomed to doing tasks online, including opening a bank account, but non-U.S. citizens will likely find that's not possible. Online account opening systems do not work well with individuals without a social security number due to the nature of identifying questions, says Rebecca Morris Hoeft, CEO and founder of St. Paul, Minnesota-based Morris Health Group. As such, non-U.S. citizens will likely need to go to a branch to open a bank account. Many customers are accustomed to doing tasks online, including opening a bank account, but non-U.S. citizens will likely find that's not possible. Online account opening systems do not work well with individuals without a social security number due to the nature of identifying questions, says Rebecca Morris Hoeft, CEO and founder of St. Paul, Minnesota-based Morris Hoeft Group. As such, non-U.S. citizens will likely need to go to a branch to open a bank account. Alternative identification options. For a non-resident or non-citizen without a social security number, there are other options. Often, you may need to provide one or more of the following to verify your identity, including a passport number and country of issuance, an alien registration number, a visa or another U.S. immigration documents, driver's license with a photo, school ID with photo, U.S. employment authorization card with a photo. Non-U.S. citizens can apply for an ITIN, which is one of the most commonly used alternative forms of identification. How to get an ITIN? IRS provides an individual taxpayer identification number for people who need U.S. taxpayer ID but don't have or can't get a Social Security number from the Social Security Administration. This 9-digit number helps people meet their U.S. tax obligations and allow efficient recording of tax returns and payments for those who aren't eligible for Social Security number. An ITIN is provided regardless of a person's immigration status, as U.S. tax filing or reporting might be necessary for both residents and non-residents. An ITIN can be obtained by applying through the IRS. With one of these numbers, non-citizens are able to file their taxes. An ITIN doesn't authorize someone to work in the U.S. and is used solely for tax reporting purposes. Getting an ITIN requires completion of Form W-7. Mail the completed Form W-7 to the IRS along with proof of identity and foreign status documents too. If you prefer not to mail the forms, you can take the form to an IRS authorized certifying acceptance agent. The IRS issues ITINs through the mail, but it's not a speedy process. Approval typically takes about 7 weeks or more. Banks and credit unions that accept alternative IDs. At first glance, many bank websites would seem to indicate that alternative IDs are not accepted. Though many of the biggest banks list a Social Security number as a requirement on their websites, it may only be necessary for opening an account online. In some cases, banks will assist if you are missing a piece of information. Appointments can be scheduled with many big banks that accept an ITIN instead of Social Security number online, including Bank of America online appointments, PNC Bank online appointments, Chase online bank, Citibank. Some credit unions also accept alternative IDs. TC Credit Union in Washington, for example, offers a safe checking account specifically for non-US citizens. Because the account earns no interest, it doesn't require a tax number, only a foreign ID. Another option for non-US citizens to consider is a bank-on account. Bank-on account, offered as a part of the banking industry's push to welcome unbanked customers. Unbanked customers, right? Bank-on account. In addition to having low fees and no overdraft fees, one of the standards bank-on lists as strongly recommended is that participating banks and credit unions accept alternative IDs. Right? Overdraft. Let's find out what overdraft is. Last night we covered overdraft. I thought minus 통장 in Korean, but draft, right? Usual overdraft means you draw more. Overdrawing of a bank account, amount overdrawn, limit to which money may be withdrawn from the bank on credit, draft of air flowing over a fire, overdraft, for example, in a furnace, overdraft. An overdraft occurs when something is withdrawn in excess of what is in a current account. For financial systems, this can be funds in the bank account. In these situations, the account is said to be overdrawn. In the economic system, if there is a prior agreement with the account provider for an overdraft, and the account overdrawn is within the authorized overdraft limit, then interest is normally charged at the agreed rate. Account provider. If the negative balance exceeds the agreed terms, then additional fees may be charged and higher interest rates may be applied. By analogy, overdrafting of an aquifer refers to extraction of water faster than it will be replenished. Overdraft can be written in many situations: aquifers, bank system, financial systems, overdraft minus 통장, right? So I was just confused about the fees. Usually interest, right? In Korea, it's just interest, not a fee. When you make an overdraft, when you overdraw. But the acceptance of an ITIN or foreign ID to open an account isn't the only point that matters for non-US citizens. It's also important to compare fees and minimum balance requirements attached to those accounts. Read Bankrate's Guide to Avoiding Bank Fees to avoid paying too much money to a stash and manage your cash. Stash and manage your cash. Stash. Overdraft. Bank on unbanked citizens, unbanked customers. The benefits of opening a bank account: filling out forms, going to an agent's office, and waiting for nearly 2 months may sound like a hassle, but the benefits of a bank account outweigh those troubles. Some ways that bank accounts help consumers manage their money include lower fees, extra protection, access to direct deposit, saving for the future, credit building opportunities. Lower fees. Without a checking account, cashing checks has to be done through check cashing services or prepaid debit cards, which often charge high fees. Extra protection. Storing money in a bank account is much safer than keeping it in a drawer. If a bank is insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corps (FDIC), or a credit union is insured by the National Credit Union Administration (NCUA), that means they offer federal deposit insurance up to $250,000 per depositor, per insured bank, per ownership category. Wow, that's good. So insure not across the accounts. It's just insurance up to $250,000 per depositor, per insured bank, per ownership category. So it depends on the how many different accounts you have with the different banks and what categories, like a checking account, bank account, savings account, whatever it is. Access to direct deposit. A checking account provides a convenient way to receive payments. Saving for the future. With a high yield savings account, consumers can practice good habits for building up their wealth over time and staying prepared for emergencies. Savings accounts usually only allow for 6 withdrawals each month. Under Regulation D in April 2020, the Federal Reserve removed the limit to provide consumers increased access to funds, but many banks today still enforce Regulation D, right? Reg D. Reg D stands for Regulation D. Credit building opportunities. Establishing a good banking history can provide a gateway to larger life goals, such as buying a car or owning a home. Bottom line, the banking industry's traditional identification requirements may seem like a barrier to non-US citizens when trying to open a bank account, but numerous banks and credit unions accept alternative forms of ID to make it easier. Though obtaining a ITIN does mean some extra work, the ability to open a checking account and savings account, in some cases apply for a home loan, can make a meaningful difference in achieving financial security. Freelance writer David Macmillan contributed to a previous version of this article, but this article was recently modified or written by Renee Bennett, banking writer. Let's find out the exact pronunciation of R-E-N-E, right? French name.
瑞恩
What the fuck?
Renee
Renee.
Renee
Renee.
Renee
Renee.
Renee
Renee.
Renee
Renee. Renee. Male or female first name. Renee. Renee. Renee Bennett, banking writer. Renee Bennett. Renee Bennett is a former writer for Bankrate, reporting on banking products and personal finance. Edited by Mark Wagenau, senior banking editor. Reviewed by Thomas Brock, expert reviewer CFA, CPA. So from this article, I just try to remember the pronunciation of Renee Bennett, and the difference between and un, right? Unbanked customer, unbanked customer, unbanked customer, unbanked customer. So regulation D or Reg D or Reg D, unbanked customer, overdraft, stash, and enjoy your cash. Stash, social security number, ITIN, that's IRS, stands for Internal Revenue Service. We know that, but I wonder why they don't use services instead of just service. I will find that out later. And what else I learned from this article? It's just a short article, introductory. You need to have some kind of ID, passport, and for social security number. If you don't have social security number, you can use ITIN, right? Otherwise, you cannot open a bank account in the U.S. as a foreigner, as a tourist. You need to have ITIN. It takes several weeks, like 2 months, to get an ITIN. Then you can open a bank account in the U.S. Overdraft fee. Well, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful Thursday. We just finished the 3-day holiday in Korea for Chuseok or 中秋节 in Chinese. That's moon harvest festival. We didn't harvest anything this year. The moon harvest Chuseok is like 2 weeks earlier, so we didn't harvest anything.